Episode 3 of The Acolyte premiered Tuesday night, titled Destiny. I guess they're breaking from the split titles that we saw in the first 2 episodes. And from what we had heard, perhaps the week before, if you listen to spoilers, this was the one that was going to break everything. I'd heard, obviously, what the spoilers were, how the girls came to be, and I honestly was expecting a lot more.
You were? Really?
Yes.
I did not think this was as lore-breaking as I thought it would be. There are clearly some things do not fit in Star Wars canon, in my opinion, but they'd been there long time before this came around. More than anything, I'm just kind of left confused.
Okay. Let's start at the beginning. What happened here?
All right, so yeah, what's this one about? We have a flashback to 16 years ago. This has been alluded to in prior episodes. The girls on, what is it called? Brendeck or Brendock? I think it's Brendock, which is basically a safe haven for, I'm going to guess we're calling them a coven of witches. Really not certain what they are. They keep calling them, throughout the episode, they call themselves witches. I'm not certain if they're Night Sisters or not. Basically, it's a whole group of women of different species throughout the galaxy who've banded together. And they have this little community they've set up, I guess. Apparently, they're persecuted throughout the galaxy.
The galaxy is not a place that welcomes women like us.
Kind of alluded to because of who they are. I think that's an obvious analogy to certain marginalized people. It may also be the fact that they could be perceived as dark force users, but that goes into, you know, what the Night Sisters were and everything. Again, none of this is really made clear. I kind of think they're Night Sisters, but it's not clear. I also disagree with Night Sisters because I don't know why witches are being introduced to Star Wars. That's another story for another time, but that's my position. So we meet Mae and Osha as young girls, and they're getting ready for their ascension ceremony. And this is where they prepare to become witches, but it's very clear that Osha is not really feeling it. She wants something more than just this life on Brendock. She wants more to just be another witch among the coven.
Don't you wonder what could be out there besides Brendock?
It's almost like, maybe there's an analogy to a young person on a distant planet looking out to the galaxy, just wanting to get away and explore. Yeah, they're totally channeling a Luke Skywalker vibe with this. Well, at least they're cribbing their own shit, but it's still cribbing. So they have a little encounter in the forest, and it's very clear that Mae is very willing to use her powers. These are force powers. Be called something else by the coven. More so than Osha.
Let it go, Mae.
Osha makes clear that she's really not wanting to do the ascension ceremony.
I don't want to do the ascension.
They go back to the camp because they're in a place they shouldn't be. And along the way, they say this little thing. I think it's
Always one, born as two. As above sits the stars, and below lies the sea.
I guess it's this twin sister thing. It also sounds very much coven related, but they also meet Mother Coral along the way. She's a Zabrak, and we learn eventually that she is the one that carried the girls. Yes, that would mean she'd be the one that gave birth to the girls who were born in unusual circumstances. They go back to the camp, and that's where we meet Mother Anesia. I think that's played by Jodie Turner-Smith, and she's referred to as Mama by both the girls.
Mama!
Mother Anesia tells him to go get ready for the ceremony. We have this little conversation between Mother Coral, who's the leader of the tribe, the coven rather, of witches, concerned because they all know the Jedi are out there.
Any sign of the visiting Jedi?
None. The twins are not normal children.
We have actually seen that Sol was spying on the girls. So they're concerned about it. They're concerned about the safety of the girls. And they want the girls to go forward with the ceremony. They don't want the Jedi to interrupt it or find out how the girls came to be. Before the ascension ceremony, there's a bit of a training session where the girls are taught to use their powers. And it's this where I think, going back and watching the Film Threat spoiler review, this is where I think Chris Gore is saying canon is broken. And respectfully, I'm going to disagree with Mr. Gore.
And why would you do that?
I don't think canon is necessarily broken. I just think it's seen differently. I don't like it because, again, I don't like witches in Star Wars.
It could be witches, some evil witches.
Mother Inesia says, what ties us all together is a thread.
All living things are connected by the same thread. A thread woven through all of existence.
And she says that some people will call this thread a power, a force.
Some call it a force and claim to use it.
The impression you're supposed to get is that the people who call it the force are misusing it. She does explain that if you tug on the thread, you can make changes. And that's kind of what she shows. She uses tugging the thread to push people back. And then also we get the idea, apparently, that the power of one is not as great as power of two or the power of many.
And tonight, at the ceremony, you will experience the power of many.
I guess these witches combine their powers together to give them greater power. And honestly, this instantly reminded me of the TV show Charmed.
Power of 3 will set us free. Power of 3 will set us free.
Yeah, so honestly, I would not be surprised if Leslye Headland was a fan of the first Charmed series with, guess what, Shannon Doherty? I know Shannon Doherty was in it. Who else was in it? Holly Combs. Someone else. I forget.
Alyssa Milano.
Alyssa Milano. There's the 3 witches. Power of 3. There they all are. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Leslye was a fan of those shows. Which is Power of 3. So again, we learn a bit about the girls and how they see the powers.
Communism! That's right.
I'm getting tired of the messaging. Okay? So I'm just going to accept that this is full of frickin' messaging, that it's wrong for people to have power, for not to be shared among the group as a total for some weird socialistic, communistic thing. Whatever you want to do, fine. Tell that. The problem is you're not telling a good story. Mae's very much into this. Mae wants to be a witch. Osha does not. She's like, I feel like this is channeling Skywalker in Star Wars. I want to go see what's out there. But there's no real reason why. As far as we could tell, these girls have all been sequestered from the rest of the galaxy. And later on, she's like, she wants to be a Jedi. How does she even know about the Jedi? There's no indication of what the basis of this is. She just doesn't fit in. She doesn't want to be part of it. Throughout it, though, we get the idea that it's very important to be part of this group, to keep your powers combined. And there's a negative impression of people who use the powers for themselves.
It is about sacrificing a part of yourself. The power of many instead of the power of one.
So clearly that's making the analogy that the Jedi who individually use the power of the Force, as opposed to the witches who combine to use the power of the thread, the Jedi are wrong because they're being selfish. At least that's the impression I'm getting, which I suspect is probably going to relate to some intersectional feminist argument about the patriarchy or something.
It's dreadful.
It's like communism.
So we finally get to the Ascension ceremony. All the witches are gathered around this little hole in the ground, I guess a cavern down, and they're all doing weird gyrations, some sort of spell, worship. I don't know what the hell is going on right here.
The power of one, the power of two, the power of many.
It looks, yeah. It is weird. It's just so bizarre. And there's something very sexualized about it, I think. Just all the women together. But again, for a show which has been said to be very gay.
I would say arguably the gayest Star Wars, I think, by a considerable. It's pretty gay, let's be honest.
So anyway, Mae is all into this ceremony. That's right. She steps right up.
Do you vow upon my death to protect the secrets of our coven and continue our legacy?
Yes, ma'am. I am all in to be a witch. I just want to join this whole sapphic community.
I do.
Osha's reluctant, and then that's where the Jedi appear.
I am Master Indara, and these are my colleagues, Sol, Kelnaka, and my Padawan, Torben.
Torben's a Padawan here, and he's pretty young here. Yeah, he looks like he's in his early 20s, which really goes to show how crappy the makeup was, trying to make him look 16 years older in the prior episode. I mean, seriously, you have $180 million for this whole series. You had 8 episodes. That's over $20 million an episode. You can't do a freaking better job on this dude's makeup to at least make him look 16 years older, other than this poor ass receding hairline and poorly glued on beard. Come on, Disney. Spend your money right. Otherwise, people think $180 million isn't properly being used. Why would the investors ever think that? Everything's wonderful. Bob Iger's back.
Hey, Bob. If you're in the audience.
So the Jedi know that the girls are there. They know they have some powers based on spying on them earlier, and they decide to test them. The Sisterhood, of course, is very reluctant, and they're very concerned that they will learn how the girls came into existence.
I created them. And what happens if the Jedi discover how you created them?
Mother Anetsi and the girls talk about the Jedi, the tests they're going to take. Mae's very reluctant. She has no desire to become involved in this. She just wants to stay among the Coven. Osha, however, she wants to be a Jedi.
Would you like to be tested and see if you could become one?
Yes.
Where this came from is really not clear. There's no indication in any of the story that she was aware of the Jedi or anything. Again, I said it, that she's the analogy to Luke Skywalker, I think, wanting to go off and see the universe. You could make the argument legitimately that there's nothing in Star Wars from Luke Skywalker. It's like, oh, I got to be a Jedi. We did have a connection, at least. Luke apparently knew what the Jedi were when Obi-Wan mentioned it to him. He learned what his father was. He learned that his father was a Jedi. And when given the option of leaving the planet after his entire family had been killed, he saw an opportunity for hope. He saw an opportunity to become something more than he was, to live beyond what he was. There's a story built there. Maybe you could say it's not as strong as it could have been. That's fair. You can say it. But here, there's nothing. It's just like, I want to be a Jedi. Why? Did you have any books that talk about the Jedi? Have you ever said, oh, what about the Jedi? Did you hear this Jedi story? There's nothing in the story that shows us why Osha would want to leave. Mae, of course, is very happy there. She wants to stay there among the Coven. Why does Osha want to go? We don't know. There is a part lacking in the story. And more than anything, more than whatever you may think is lore breaking this episode, it's just not good storytelling. The next day, the girls go to the Jedi ship to do the testing. Along the way, they discuss what's going to happen. And as before, Osha's reluctant. She doesn't want to lie about what she feels.
I want to say what's in my heart. You have to lie.
Mae, you will go first.
Mae goes in for the testing, and when she walks out, it's Osha's turn. And the testing is basically the same thing as we saw Anakin do in The Phantom Menace. Osha's supposed to guess what's being shown on the screen. It's clear that she knows what is being displayed, but she's telling something wrong. And then she kind of screws up and lets go that she actually knows what's being displayed.
A mountain.
Correct.
That wasn't a mountain.
There's a little conversation between her and Soul, and she tells him, yes, I want to be a Jedi.
I want to be a Jedi.
After the testing, the girls go back to the coven, and Osha says, I don't want to be a witch. I want to be a Jedi.
I don't want to be a witch.
And Mae does not take this well at all.
What's wrong with you?
Mother Anesia says, we'll take into consideration what you've said when they discuss it. Osha goes to pack, and that's when Mae shows up in her room, and Mae's not happy. Osha's like, I'm going to leave, and you can't stop me. And Mae has other ideas in mind.
You can't go. We're stuck here now. It's not up to you. You can't stop me. Yes, I can. How? I'll kill you.
Holy shit. Mae's got some darkness in her.
That's pretty dark, yeah. That's dark. Yeah, it's pretty dark. You know, well, maybe.
Mae then steals Osha's, drawing book, runs outside the room, locks her inside, and lights the book on fire. Then she takes the flame and drops it on the doorway, which apparently somehow starts lighting the entire room on fire. Osha escapes through some sort of air vent, starts making her way through the coven headquarters, home, whatever, and she starts hearing explosions and screams. Osha makes it to some sort of cavern with a bridge going across a chasm. On the other side is Mae, but the bridge is broken in two. One of them needs to jump, but everything's already falling apart, and they both start falling into the chasm. Fortunately, Soul is there to grab Osha before she falls. He then starts walking her through the caves, and along the way, we see a whole bunch of dead witch bodies just kind of laying there on the ground.
Let's keep going.
They're not burned. There's no lightsaber wounds apparent. What happened? It's not clear. And then, of course, Mother Anesia is also there, dead on the ground. We then see Osha waking up on the Jedi ship. They're going to Coruscant. She wants to go back and find everybody, but Soul tells her there's nothing left there, but he will train her as a Jedi.
And if you wish, you're trained as my Padawan.
We then flash back to Brendok, and we see Mae in front of the same tree that we saw at the beginning of the episode, the big yellow kind of weeping willow tree, which she knew was where Osha would always go. She looks around and Osha's not there. And that's the episode.
That's all it was?
That's all it was.
This was not the lore-breaking show I thought it would be, based on what I had heard. As I said, I don't like witches in Star Wars. I don't like the Night Sisters. I don't like this. The thing about Star Wars is, kind of like D&D has magic. The Force was magic. I guess you could say the witches see the Force differently. That's fair, I guess. People see religion differently. So that's fine. But as I say, there's just a lot of holes in this story. And it didn't leave me with the feeling of, oh, I'm so interested to find out what happens next. It's more like, all right, what did I see and why did I see it? And what's the purpose of this? It's a lot of blank holes, and it's not being told right. It's more of a feeling than a way you can express it logically. Yeah, there's just something lacking about this show. The only person in this episode I like the guy who plays Soul, Squid Game guy. For the most part, I think he's doing an okay job. We could talk, of course, about the intersexual feminism, whatever. I'm tired of this bullshit. If you want, if it's some fantasy for feminist lesbians to think they conceive a child without sperm, good luck with that. Can't imagine it's happening anytime soon. But if you want to imagine it and it makes you happy, great. You know what, though? It doesn't work with telling a story of Star Wars. Star Wars is a set galaxy, a set universe. And I'm just tired of the pushing of some message when you don't need to. Push a story. Because this story that's being pushed is not good. It's dull and boring. 3 episodes in of 8 episodes. Already, just on average, you're talking $66 million for these hour 40 minutes at best. If you're going to do this, guys, you need to do it better. We're like Star Wars. We do. We like this universe. We want good stories being told. Just do that. Tell good stories. Tell good stories with strong female characters. That's perfectly fine. You did it before. Princess Leia was a strong female character. Great character. You can do it now. And you don't have to shove it down anyone's throat with messaging over story. Anyway, we'll have another episode next week. It's just dull. It's my overall opinion. Dull. Questions, comments, witticisms down below. Click all those good buttons.
Be sure to like and subscribe.
See you guys next time.